Persephone, gods that Kratos has killed in God of War. And who are they? After the sun falls from the sky and Kratos is sent on a mission to find Helios, the god of light, he encounters Persephone in the underworld. She taunts Kratos with her and Atlas's plan to destroy the pillar of the world, causing death to all gods and mortals, including his daughter he was reunited within the Elysium fields. Because of this, he goes back to being the Ghost of Sparta and has to kill her. Persephone is the god of spring who was kidnapped and forced to marry the king of the underworld, Hades. This made Demeter depressed, which stopped crops from growing, so Zeus and Hades came to a deal to bring Persephone back for a limited time. Now Demeter's mood affects the weather, with fall mourning her loss, winter is Demeter being alone, spring is hope her daughter is coming back, and summer is the time Demeter gets to spend with her daughter. Persephone is the Olympian goddess of spring, queen of the underworld, and the main antagonist in God of War, Chains of Olympus. Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, Persephone, pi epsilon rho sigma epsilon phi nu eta, was the goddess of spring and was also the queen of the underworld. She was the daughter of both Zeus and Demeter, and quite favored by her mother. She was usually portrayed robed, carrying a sheaf of grain and smiling with the archaic smile of the Chore of Antenor. The Romans called her Persephone. She was an innocent goddess who was abducted by Hades while she picked flowers in a field with nymphs, at the behest of Zeus who advised and helped Hades kidnap Persephone. Demeter searched everywhere for her daughter for 9 days, until she was informed by Helios of what happened. Despite Helios's attempts to reassure the goddess that her daughter's marriage was honorable, the seasons changed because of Demeter's depression, and mortals began to starve because their crops were dying. Cries from the mortals' hunger forced the gods who heard their anguish to confront Zeus and Demeter. With Demeter telling them she would not give life to the crops and vegetation unless her daughter was returned, Zeus asked Hades to return Persephone, sending Hermes to retrieve her. Before doing so, however, Hades either tricked/forced Persephone into eating 3 pomegranate seeds, or Persephone ate them herself, which seasons are based on Demeter's mood during each time of the seasons. Demeter begins to mourn that her daughter is going to Hades, which creates autumn, she grieves, which creates winter, she is happy to have her daughter back, which creates spring, and finally she enjoys her daughter on earth, which creates summer. Some stories claim that Persephone never loved Hades, but a more popular story states that Persephone ended up falling for Hades, and in one story, Persephone turned the nymph Minda into a plant out of jealousy and anger for the poor nymph that tried to seduce Pluto, Hades. However, this never occurred in ancient Greek mythology. Nonetheless, there was no notable bad blood between Hades and Persephone in ancient Greek mythology. Indeed, the Elysian Mysteries, Persephone's main cult, believed that Hades and Persephone had a faithful and a loving marriage with each other. Persephone and Hades never had an affair in ancient Greek mythology. In the God of War series, God of War, Chains of Olympus. Persephone was the queen of the underworld and was the one responsible for orchestrating the events throughout the game. She had become bitter from carrying over the fallen as well as her forced marriage with Hades and allied herself with the dream god Morpheus and the mighty titan Atlas, in hopes of destroying the world along with herself. This would be achieved by putting the gods to sleep by Morpheus' power and freeing Atlas, allowing him to capture Helios, the god of the sun, and destroy the pillar of the world which held the earth and Olympus in place. While chasing his deceased daughter, Calliope, in the underworld, Kratos, the god's servant, was met by Persephone and demanded to see his daughter. Persephone explained to Kratos that if he were to see his daughter, who fled to the Elysium fields, he would need to prove himself worthy by giving up his power and weapons. Only then would he be granted passage into the Elysium fields as well. As he finally reunited with his daughter, Kratos realized he had been tricked by Persephone when she revealed her plot to destroy the world. Persephone no longer wanted to live because of the fact that she married a man she did not love, lived a life she did not choose, and that she was betrayed by the very gods who called her their own. She would be at peace and be free from her miserable existence. She taunted Kratos over the fact that he could do nothing to save his daughter. Kratos angrily tried to attack Persephone, but she merely blasted him away. Kratos gave up his chance to be with Calliope to regain his powers and weapons so that he might be able to stop Persephone. Transforming into a winged and armored form to combat the Spartan, Persephone flew up the pillar of the world, which Atlas had already been in the process of destroying. With his blades, Kratos managed to follow Persephone by latching himself onto her. They battled atop the pillar, where Persephone was aided by Atlas. However, Helios, being held in Atlas's hand, radiated the ray of light which Kratos used to weaken the goddess. He then smashed her to death with the gauntlet of Zeus. In her last breath, she told Kratos that his suffering would never end. Her body then started to disintegrate, releasing an incredible amount of energy, and Persephone, goddess of the underworld, finally ceased to exist. Her actions would later foreshadow Kratos' own actions in taking revenge against the gods. God of War 3. Persephone only briefly appears as part of a puzzle. She, like Ares, is buried in a decorated coffin. Hades himself later mentions her death alongside Athena's and Poseidon's as one of the many grievances the Lord of the Underworld has against Kratos. Also, when Kratos battles Hades, it is within one of Persephone's grottos, and her face is even engraved in the center of the floor where Kratos fights with Hades. Trivia. Despite trying to destroy the world, herself and the gods, including her husband Hades, he still harbored great feelings of hatred towards Kratos for killing her. This was likely due to the fact that Hades was possessed by the evil, hate, from Pandora's box. According to the God of War 2 novel, Hades might have indirectly been in on her plan. She is the first out of 4 gods, chronologically first, whose deaths caused their bodies to explode. The second was Ares, the third was Thanatos, and the fourth was Athena. It's strange that we see her body explode at her death in God of War, Chains of Olympus also destroying the pillar of the world, yet we see her corpse in God of War 3, just like Ares. It is possible Hades had the means to restore a body no matter of the state that it was in. She was, chronologically, the second female antagonist in the God of War series. The first being Alecto. Persephone went unmentioned when Kratos informed Gaia of the deaths of Ares and Athena. One possible explanation is that Persephone is considered a lesser goddess. It's also likely that Helios was involved in killing her or removing her divinity. Persephone is invincible until blasted with the solar beam at the end of the fight. Kratos stated that Ares is the only god he's slain in God of War, Ghost of Sparta. Kratos probably left Persephone unmentioned due to the fact that she is a lesser goddess, and not an Olympian or primordial entity.